Hello and welcome to the very first episode of ISO 400. I am your host, Julius Motel. ISO 400 is a new podcast by the Phoblographer, a photography news and culture website where I serve as the managing editor. It's an interview series we conduct with photographers over Skype. Now, we've done plenty of interviews before, and you can find them on our website. And these interviews were mostly done over email, which can often suffer from a lack of the back and forth that can make an interview great. So we thought, let's turn to Skype. Now, our website is traditionally gear-focused with our reviews and other features, so we're looking to break our own mold with ISO 400 by focusing pretty heavily on the art, craft, and story of each photographer. Any mention of gear is purely to help our readers, who are hopefully now our listeners and viewers, understand how these photographers made the images that they're known for. So our first episode features London-based urban photographer Goodden. He is the founder of the Street Photography London Collective. He has about 88,000 followers on Twitter, and he just had an exhibition at the Hoxton Hotel in London for a project of his called The Great Londoners. So please enjoy this first episode of ISO 400 with Nico Goodden. You can find more information and examples of his work up on the post for this episode on our website, and our music was provided by Yuki Futami, a New York-based jazz pianist. Thanks, and hope you enjoy.
Hey, Julius.
Hey, Nico, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you, finally.
Yes, and welcome to the inaugural episode of ISO 400.
Sounds good. How's Istanbul treating you?
Oh, Istanbul's wonderful. A little gray and a little rainy, but
yeah,
otherwise okay.
Right.
Things are moving along, going on a week tomorrow. So,
cool.
So, raised in France, trained as a chef for 5 years, studied to be a chef, worked as a DJ for 10. Most recently, sales and marketing manager for Monarch House.
Yeah.
And you started photography in 2008.
That's right.
Most recently, you had The Great Londoners featured at the Hoxton Hotel.
Yeah, it's the Hoxton Hotel.
Hoxton, forget it. So, and you also founded the Street Photography London Collective, which has grown substantially. But let's start with The Great Londoners. How did you get started on that project? How long of a period of time were you working on it?
I started working on it in November 2013. I think the main reason was that I was shooting a lot of street work, but nothing consistent. So it was more a case of, one shot here, one shot there, nothing really working together. So I decided to focus on keeping one only lens, really, just working with one lens, always fixed on my camera, and that's the Voigtlander 17.5 millimeter, the F095.
Right.
Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
So I was working with that, and it's a manual lens. So it took quite a lot of discipline to stick to it. I wasn't really used to working on manual focus. So I learned a lot, and I wanted to achieve one particular look throughout the series. So I stuck to black and white, a very shallow depth of field, so really to isolate the characters. And usually just one person featured in the photo. And it's definitely street photography. It's not street portraits, although some people would consider, I'm not going to go into the definition of street photography.
No, of course.
But none of them are aware of me taking their photo. So that's the main point.
And you were shooting from the hip too, right, for that series?
Yeah, so shooting from the hip, which, you would have asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said, I absolutely despise shooting from the hip, that it's complete down to luck, and it doesn't take much skill, but when you want to have not miss half of your subject, you need to develop a technique that's consistent and that actually works. So practice makes perfect, and eventually most of the shots you take are actually okay.
Yeah. And how long, I mean, were you practicing shooting from the hip before taking on this project or along the way?
No, pretty much along the way. Because of the look I wanted to achieve, I had to shoot people pretty close, about 3 feet, 3 to 6 feet away from me. I'm not confident enough to sort of shoot people right in the face.
Yeah.
So I decided to go for shooting from the hip, and I think also it gives that sort of perspective where they all look quite, I don't know, majestic. You know, they look quite imposing and quite grand. You know, and I think that's the effect you get from shooting people from below.
Yeah. And how many shots did you have at the end of the project, and what was the editing process like for you?
In terms of number of shots, there are a lot of shots that didn't make it to my website, and there's a lot of shots from the website that didn't make it to the exhibition. I think it was mostly a case of finding the right characters, people that made the Great Londoners sort of speak to people that saw it, and most of the people that saw it are Londoners. So something that really a lot of us are familiar with, and probably people that visit London regularly or that have visited London once. So, you know, eccentric people, or I think what someone said is that all of them are really quite badass. You know, every single one of them in the series sort of looks like, you know, you don't want to mess with them, or they have some attitude or some, you know, character and balls.
Yeah. Did any of your characters actually show up at the exhibition?
Yeah, actually, yeah. One of them, his daughter got in touch with me by email. An old dude, about 80 years old. He's in one of the photos. He's in a suit with sunglasses. Shot in Camden Town. And his daughter got in touch with me and said that actually this guy is my dad, and he just turned 80, and so take photos of people, put them on your website, put them in an exhibition that you haven't asked for permission. How they react, you know? But they were very, very friendly.
Oh, good.
She bought the photo from the show. He came to see the show, and he brought, of course, some mates of his just to sort of show off a bit.
Yeah, of course.
And so that was very positive, and it's quite impressive because, you know, what are their chances? Yeah,
no, of course. Let's go back to 2008. What got you to first pick up a camera?
Now, I hope my boss is not going to watch this. Because it's pretty much for me to escape corporate life. You know, I've worked most of my life in hotels, but it was more in operation. So, you know, dealing with clients face to face. But recently, I've been working in an office, and I don't know. It's just not something I want to do all my life.
Sure.
I'm good at my job, but I'm trying to find a way to get out of working in an office, and photography just seemed like the right thing. I've always liked taking photos.
Did you immediately start photographing on the street, or how did you find your way to street photography?
I think I'm more of a case of being an urban photographer rather than just a street photographer.
Sure.
I just shoot whatever makes London. So I started taking photos of graffiti art. It was before even getting my first sort of serious camera, just with a point and shoot. I was shooting graffiti, and just more and more the graffiti I stepped away from it in terms of distance, and it became a part of the bigger picture, which was urban landscapes. So I got interested in shooting urban landscapes, got my first DSLR, and yeah, I think when I got a bit bored of waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to shoot an urban landscape,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I decided to work more during the day. So what could I shoot? So street photography became one, a bit of architecture,
Mm-hmm.
still shooting graffiti and street art. I also shoot some minimal, some details of architecture that's sort
Right.
of very minimal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm trying to think here. Start? When did you feel, I guess, comfortable calling yourself a photographer?
Yeah, that's it's weird. Why do you suddenly call yourself a
Yeah.
photographer? Um, I th- I think I started about 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
so fairly recently, and I still find it a bit difficult because I'm not a full time photographer.
Right.
I do a lot of jobs in photography and all that I get paid for, but I still keep my day job.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess it's there's a very thin line. A lot, everyone's a photographer in a way.
Sure.
What makes you a photographer? Because you make money, because you got so many followers, or you just take photos with your phone. I don't know.
Yeah. How did you work out a work photography balance? Because I can imagine having a day job can eat up a lot of time, a lot of good light time too.
Yeah, it's I'm very lucky because in my last job, or the one I'm currently in, my boss is very understanding, and I can take as many days off as I want, unpaid.
Sure.
So it means that whenever I feel like I need to take a day off and focus on photography, or if I've got a client needing my services, then I can take the day off. So that's big because a lot of bosses don't necessarily get it. If you're
Of
interested in
course.
something else, then you're not committed to your job, and that's it. So yeah, that's but it's a lot of work because I've got my job, so
Yeah.
it's tricky to balance, but it's necessary for me, I think, because I speak to so many photographers that struggle to make a living from photography.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really want that. I want photography to remain fun
Mm-hmm.
and something that I can do without having to compromise. So I just shoot whatever I want, and
Sure.
if there's a job that I get approached for that I really actually want to do, I can go for it. If I don't feel like doing it, it's not like I'm not going to pay my rent if I say no.
Have you had any photographic dry spells where it just didn't seem to be working out? And if so, how did you sort of push through that?
Mm. Yeah, massively. I think it seems to come back every year. Every year, I get about a month where I just yeah, have to put down the camera and take a bit of time to think. Not think too much, but just do something else, something creative still, but something else. So I do a bit of graphic design here. I love to cook. I cook. I don't know. You just do something because it's still work, photography that I love, but it's still work. So it's good to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
But I get that every year, and actually at the moment I'm a little bit, in a dry spell. Winter's never good, I think.
Really?
Um, yeah, I mean there's lots of opportunities, but I find winter to constantly come back to.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that time where I slow down. But I do something else. My latest project is something brand new that I'm doing to just completely take my head away from street photography. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not shooting people, I'm shooting just very small details of the city
Mm-hmm.
against a turquoise background, which is the sky, but I just modify a bit the color.
Mm-hmm.
It's something different. I mean, you can check it out on my website, but
Yeah.
it's
It's on your Instagram too, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So my Instagram is focused just on this project.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm not too stressed. Again, if if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I go to something else.
Mm-hmm.
I've got all the time in the world. So.
Yeah. Do you have places, particular places in London where you like to photograph the most, or?
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that there's West London, for example, is not an area I really enjoy. I work in West London. It's I find it a bit boring. It's a bit sort of mummy pushchair. I don't know. I like places that are a bit more alternative. So East London is very good for that. Camden Town, which is, it's world famous, but it's this eccentric market with eccentric people. You go there, you know that you're going to bring back something home. Whereas you can go to other places just to experiment, and it just won't produce. So sometimes, just because it's convenient, you go to places that you're familiar with, comfortable with.
Yeah, of course. When did you start to take to Twitter to start putting yourself out there and, I guess, building a brand? And was it steady growth, or was there concentrated spikes? How did that all sort of come about?
I did it straight from the beginning. I at the time, so that not at the beginning, but I launched my website in 2010, so about 2 years after I started shooting. And as soon as I launched my website, I thought, well, it's not just enough to have a website. You need to have people come to visit it, because before that I was on Flickr. On Flickr, you have natural traffic because people are there. But when you have a website, suddenly, well, it's not going to happen by magic. So the company I was working for at the time, they were very savvy in terms of social media. And they had the returns. So I thought, well, that's definitely an avenue I need to look into. So I set up my Facebook page and my Twitter account. And yeah, started there. I think straight from the beginning, I realized Twitter is not just to tweet, "Oh, I'm having a coffee," and please retweet, or go buy my prints, and posting that 10 times a day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if probably I'd need to look at my tweets actually from back then. Maybe I'd actually realize I'm contradicting myself. I'm not being completely truthful. Maybe I've got some bad tweets, but you learn, and I learned the hard way on some occasions. You can't really let out your rage on Twitter. You can't really. You've got to be very nice to people, because it can really seriously backlash. And I'm not naturally a bad person, I think, but you don't come back on a night out after a night out drunk, thinking you want to express your feelings. It's not the place for that.
Yeah, of course.
But,
when did you realize that you could, say, use your following to accomplish something?
There's definitely you can definitely use following for leverage.
Sure.
Back in I don't know, when I had about 1,000 followers, I wanted to access a rooftop in London which has tube carriages on the top, and they're all VT. They look really cool, and no one gets to photograph them, or not many people, because, well, it's closed. So I got in touch with a company there, and the tube carriages are offices for creatives. And I just got in touch with them, said I had a blog and I just want to take photos, and I gave them a bit of figures of how many followers and all that, and they straight away said, yeah, sure, come and take photos. So I think that definitely encouraged me to build the following. But of course, when I say build the following, I'm not just focusing on building my following. It's a matter of interacting the right way with people, and yeah, I like to think that I engage with people. If people contact me on Twitter, I'm pretty sure I reply to them. I try anyway.
Yeah. No, of course. And how did segueing from networking and talking to people and interacting in the right way, the Street Photography London Collective, how did that idea come, and what was sort of the generation process behind that?
The idea came... I had the idea, but in a way, I was just searching. I was searching for domain names. Domain names.
Yeah.
And because I had an interest in street photography. I searched, on GoDaddy. I searched for street photography London, and the domain came available. And I thought that that can't be right. I mean, it's a very good set of terms. So I just took the domain,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there I thought, well, what can I do with that? I've got a website already. It's. And so I thought, let's try and do a collective, a home for street photographers that are based in London, collective, and see if we can promote each other, if the website can promote everyone. There's room for everyone. So I got in touch with a few photographers, and they're all up for it. And it's grown, it's changed a little bit in the past year. It's only a year old. But pretty much we have the galleries, the portfolios of 8 photographers. But then the blog, which is also a big part and what gets the most traffic, is about sharing our tips, but also mostly interviewing street photographers from around the world. So it's not just limited to London for that.
Yeah. Have you had any significant accomplishments with the collective?
Yeah. I'm not going to compare myself to big photography blogs that get 100,000 or million views a month. But within the second month we launched, we had a feature in Huffington Post, which was encouraging. Within 3 months of the launch, we entered the International Street Photography Awards, and we won as a team. 3 of us, we all entered-ish, but 3 of us won team winner of the International Street Photography Awards in the category Street Photo of the Year. So 3 of us. Congratulations. Yeah, it was cool. It's there's quite the judges were fairly serious, well known, including Eric Kim.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you've got to take. You've got to be happy about things like this.
Yeah.
And then we've got some new development now. It's very early days, so we're not going to go too much in details. But we've been approached by a big publishing company, Photography Books, and they want to do a book on street photography London. So that's exciting.
Oh no, definitely. That sounds great, and keep me updated when more details are available. I've noticed that your portfolio is a good mix of black and white and color. And how do you decide between the two?
I think that's something I definitely need to look into in terms of what I'm displaying on the website. A bit of consistency. I realize it's a bit messy. My personal website's all right, but on Street Photography London, I've got a mix of black and white and color. I think I might redo that and just focus on maybe black and white. But in terms of deciding what I shoot, I think color is very difficult actually, because the temptation is to shoot in black and white. Black and white, it's when you remove the colors, you can really focus on what's in the photo, and very often, a lot of people might say I'm wrong, but very often black and white will make many things look good when they wouldn't look very good just in color, Yeah. So, I guess when I'm a bit lazy, sometimes I go for black and white, but no, my latest project was all in black and white.
Right.
Depends on my mood, I guess. But for consistency, it's a lot easier with black and white. When you want to shoot a consistent series in color, I think it's a bit more tricky.
Yeah. Do you find now, now that The Great Londoners is finished, are you shooting more from the eye or more from the hip, or?
I think I'm completely sort of past what I did with The Great Londoners. So shooting from the hip and all that, I want to move on to something else. So I'm back to, bringing my viewfinder to my eyes. And also not just focusing on street photography. I really, actually, I've got a bit of a project which I'm doing at the moment, which is to shoot museum attendants. at the National Portrait Gallery. So, these guys are all day looking after portraits.
Mhm.
And so I thought, it's good. It would be good to put them a bit in the limelight and shoot them for once. So I'm working a bit on that, but it's nothing serious. We'll see what it gets to.
Yeah, of course. So you haven't had any formal photographic training, right? Like, didn't
Yeah,
take
no.
classes, all learned on your own. Well, who inspires you photographically? Like, whose work do you look to?
Um, I think what got me subconsciously into photography was the French masters, if you can call it like this. My sister had a poster of Douaneau in her room, black and white street photography in Paris. Um, yeah, I mean, it's going to sound very standard, but Cartier-Bresson.
Sure.
But I haven't really got a great knowledge of other photographers. It might seem completely crazy for some other people that I don't look at the masters and all that, but I haven't much, and I don't. I hardly go to exhibitions, which is a bit. I do an exhibition and expect people to show up. So.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I guess the classic French, photographers.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that that's something you want or need to do, as far as going to more exhibitions or perhaps picking up more photo books?
Definitely, photo books. Actually, I do. I do have quite a few that I look at. It's there's this Vivian Mayer or Mayer self portraits, the Street Photography Now book from In Public, and to be honest, that's been a big influence as well in wanting to get into street photography. They are, one of the major collectives. They're international and they've got some amazing talent. And yeah, you can't say you're not influenced by them a little bit. But yeah, more books, more exhibitions, definitely.
Yeah. Earlier, you had mentioned talking to other photographers who struggle, both to do and make a living as a photographer. What would you tell them? Like, what do you advise them in any way, or how do you?
To be honest, a lot of them have a lot more experience than I do, so
Okay.
I wouldn't dare. They've made their choice. They're already working as full-time photographers. There's not much I can say to change the fact that it's difficult to get jobs as a photographer. But it's what I do with the Street Photography London collective is trying to, it doesn't hurt to help people a little bit, give other people exposure through the interviews and through the collective. I don't make any money from that website.
Sure.
Actually, it costs me money. If I can help people out, why not? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure I'm helping that much, but and if I can help people with social media tips, because it really works for me. Twitter. I read recently a report that some big photography blog published, that photographers, but I think it was probably more in the US, 55% of them think that Facebook is their biggest ally, and only 5% of them saw Twitter as a tool to market your photography. And I found that crazy, but it's good for me because if so few realize the potential, I doubt it's only 5%. It sounds really a bit low. But Twitter really works.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems that way. Have you had any particular favorites come through the interviews with the collective, up-and-coming folks who you think have some serious potential?
Yeah, there was this guy, the first interview I did this year. He's called, I don't know how to pronounce his name. That's going to be horrible. But Cian, Cian, I think, Cian Obasmith. He also won at the International Street Photography Awards the student category, and terribly talented guy, amazing, really, really good, and he's 22 years old, and he's great. So that's inspiring. You see someone who's just graduated, and he's just he blows your mind. So that's quite cool, and then it was nice to be able to interview people like Paul Russell from In Public, who was also in street photography now. But everyone, I think they all, if they make it, if we decide to feature them on the blog, it means they, either their photography is mind blowing, or they also have a lot of very interesting things to say. That's what we try to do through the interviews, is to make sure people who read them take something away with them.
Yeah, of course. Do you see the collective growing in membership at all? Is it going to stick to the 8, or where do you see it going?
We've actually grown backwards. We've lost some members because the first year, I think you try and really figure out, what you're doing. So we had a few people on board that couldn't necessarily contribute as much because everyone's got a busy life, everyone's working full time, and the collective doesn't make money. So it's difficult to ask people to get involved when it doesn't make money. But I believe that the collective is definitely going somewhere. We're not giving up. We're here to stay, and and it's great exposure. And they might not see straight away a massive spike in traffic on their website coming from Street Photography London, but just the fact that we've got a book coming up from one of the top publishers of photography books means that we're doing something right. So
no, definitely.
We'll grow definitely if we can find some more. It'd be nice to get more female photographers involved, because we have one female photographer, Ronya, in the collective, and I don't know. It seems the photography world it's a bit of a sausage fest,
Why do you have any ideas as to why that might be, or what do you think?
No, I have no idea. But I'd love to hear from any, good London street photographer, female London street photographers. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, definitely. Do you ever see yourself down the line transitioning to doing just photography?
Possibly, but I think the reason that I do photography is to, is to take me away from my day job. And there's always this fear that, once photography becomes your full-time job, that the stress of having to pay the bills, etc., will not really be worth losing photography for what it is for me at the moment, which is something that takes my mind away from the troubles, from.
Yeah, definitely. How much? So when you either take a day off of work or you go out after work, how many hours do you spend photographing? Do you stay in a place? Do you walk from neighborhood to neighborhood? Like, what's a day in your photographic life like?
So a lot of the times when I take time off work is really to do some paid jobs, because if I take time off work, I don't get paid. It'd be a bit of a luxury to just go out, shoot in the street. That I do during the weekend. So on a weekend, if I go out for a day to shoot, it'll usually be the full day, and I walk a lot, and I like it because, again, it's if not for the photography, it's healthy. It's a healthy pastime, passion, whatever you want to call it. But I'll usually cross half of London, just walk without much of an aim, just to take some photos. But I try to explore London, so each time I go out, I try and go to a new tube station that I've not been to before. Just get to discover a bit.
Yeah. How much of London do you have left to discover, do you think?
A lot. I've got a scooter, so that's quite
Oh, good.
that's quite convenient. And just yesterday, with my fiance, we were driving around and we went through some areas that we had no idea of, and it didn't even look like London. It was just really interesting. And by the time you know an area in London, it's you think you know it, and it changes completely. Some places I haven't been for 5 years, and if I go back now, it's completely changed. It's constantly changing. So that's like most cities, but London's particularly good.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no. Let me see if I have anything else here in my notes. Here's a question I ask everyone, at least as far as the written interviews go, on the Phoblographer, but now I'll ask it too, now that we're doing a podcast. If you could give one piece of advice to an up-and-coming street photographer, what would it be?
Well, it depends. It depends what level. I mean, up and coming. If it's someone that's basically just picking up a camera and thinking, I want to learn street photography. It's again things that you read over and over again, but don't get too carried. Don't get too carried away in thinking that you need to get some crazy camera. Spend all your money on a camera. There's no need for that. You could do street photography with a point and shoot. Some maybe high end point and shoot, but so don't get too carried away with the gear, and just go out and shoot, and be super selective in what you decide to keep and show. Unfortunately, there's a lot of we get contacted by a lot of people who want to submit their work to the collective, and so many people just take a photo of the street, and there's nothing in it, and it's difficult. You don't want to be too harsh. I'm not here to be a critic of people's work. I don't do reviews of their work. But yeah, be super selective. Try and really look at your photo and think, well, what is in there? Either it looks beautiful because you've managed to get the contrast, the light, the composition, something really special, or what's going on in the photo, the story it tells, or the situation, but something has to happen in there. I think people are a bit too quick to put some photos online, and
yeah. Well, how did you learn to be selective in your own work? How did you develop a critical eye?
I think as your work develops, because I clearly didn't have it at the beginning. When I look at photos I thought were some of my best photos ever, when I look at them now, they're absolutely unremarkable. I think by limiting myself on my website to the more you build a portfolio, the more photos you have.
Yeah.
More quality photos you have. So you're raising the bar constantly, naturally, without thinking too much about it. So if don't put 1,000 photos on your website. Limit, have galleries of up to 30 photos, or and stick to that, and just be super selective, and listen to also what people say. A lot of people say, "Oh, you don't shoot to please people," but you've got to listen a little bit to people around. Don't let it guide you completely, but see what are the favorites.
Oh, wow, fantastic! Thanks so much for doing this. It was great talking with you. Thanks so much for watching. This has been the very first episode of ISO 400. We've got many more in the works, and we hope to see you again soon.